Hearing the fine sounds there of the Chris Madsen Trio. Chris on tenor saxophone and arrangements here, right, on all the modern piano suite, I believe?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, indeed. That was, of course, Bix Beiderbecke's modern piano suite, and featured originally Bix on keyboards, which I gotta say, as much as I enjoyed him on, and thought I knew about him on cornet and all that, I had no idea he had real serious piano chops, which I did. But the tunes there that you just heard were called Candlelights, followed by In a Mist, followed by In the Dark, followed by Flashes. So that all seems to fall together pretty cool there. And Chris, I got to say, man, it's so cool to hear a tenor sax. I'm a fellow saxophonist for listeners that don't know that. So, of course, I call it God's instrument. What could I tell you? But it's so cool to hear you're doing tunes by a trumpet and, in this case, piano suite for a piano player. And of course, you don't use piano in your own group. So right. I think that is just so cool. A modern setting that captures the essence of the style of the period, and yet juxtaposes some different instruments, because that's what the players involved would realize such tunes through. So I think that's very cool.
Thank you very much.
And certainly nice sound. Real quickly, one thing. What kind of mouthpiece you use? It's not metal, right?
No, it's not metal. It is a vintage Autolink slant signature tenor mouthpiece. I believe it's from the 60s, and kind of the new rage in Chicago is to use the new sort of vintage recreation Autolink mouthpieces, especially for tenor. A lot of tenor players are using these sort of recreation vintage ones. Well, years ago, my former teacher and now personal great friend and colleague Mark Colby paid me in the mouthpiece for some copy work that I did for him. It was sort of a graduation gift. He paid me in the mouthpiece, and I play it to this day. It's a fantastic piece. So I'm going to play it till it burns out or something.
And if we have any saxophonies type people out there, Jared Boofy and Mark Colby go pretty regularly and handpick those things out from Jared's store there. And boy, that's a pretty cool way to find them there. I know that is very popular and certainly a great sound there. Very pleasant sound. Now, we're talking with you about the old days and what you have done on this CD, of course, so far. Now we're past the halfway point, so let's talk about the future a little bit, my friend. What'll be coming up next for Chris and Dan and Joe?
Well, we are currently in the process of planning a CD release party. I've been in touch with WDCB. Sorry to mention a competing jazz radio station. I don't know if that's all right. Kosher or not.
This is not a jazz radio station. This is a show on a radio station.
I understand.
So
but still, the point remains. But nonetheless, Ken Scott over at WDCB has offered to have WDCB sponsor one of their jazz nights and have our group play for a CD release party. In fact, it's funny, we kind of had a CD release party before the CD was completed at Andy's. Over the summer, Dan and Joe and I had a weekend at Andy's Jazz Club down on Hubbard Street. And at that point, all the music had been recorded, but it hadn't officially been mixed and mastered and released. So we kind of had a pre-release party, if you want to call it that. But details about where that will occur, of course, as everything else can be found on the website.
And that is chrismadsen.net.
.net, you got it.
And you've got another CD here. This is something that was done. This is called Hidden. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hidden was sort of my first official and serious venture into the world of releasing a CD under my own name. It's independently released. It came out in 2006, back when I was in grad school. And it features some of the wonderful young jazz musicians that I was playing with in New York at the time. And it consists of all original material. It only has 6 tracks on it, but it's probably about the same length as the big CD. And like I said, it's all original material. One of my other passions, in addition to playing saxophone, is composing. I do a lot of writing for big bands. I wrote a lot for the Rob Parton Big Band when he was still here in Chicago. I've written for a lot of sort of high school and college aged big bands, and I do a lot of that writing. But also, I'm an avid composer of tunes and small group music, and I've always been just fascinated by the idea of songcraft and songwriting and everything And this CD that I released years and years ago, actually, I was pleasantly surprised to find that someone at All About Jazz had shown an interest in it. I just, as we all do, we record a CD, we send it to the various CD review places online, and you just kind of cross your fingers and you hope for the best. But a young Chris Madsen and company sent the CD out to allaboutjazz.com. We got a very favorable review. Sort of a gold mine for really good quotes, and I was just so happy with the reviewer named Bud Kopman for doing that for us, and yeah, so that was my very first venture into independently releasing a CD that's always been basically exclusively available through my website, and now of course on CD Baby as well.
And you want to play track off there? You want to pick one of those out?
I'd love to. Let's do track number 2. This is called Free to Drive, and I wrote this one while I was in grad school. I was in my early 20s, and this one is...
And now where we're at, by the way?
Oh, I went to the Juilliard School for...
Oh, you did?
Got my master's at Juilliard, right.
Okay, how about undergrad then? Where'd you go there?
I went to DePaul University.
Okay.
Here in Chicago. Grew up in Libertyville, up north.
Great jazz program.
Absolutely, to this very day. Better and better every year.
Was Bob Lark there when you were there, or is he more?
He was.
Okay.
He was, and now I'm actually honored to be a member of his Bob Lark alumni big band, which we played a couple of gigs. In fact, I think we have a CD coming out very soon. But the band consists of all members. And by the way, Bob, this is a free plug for you, so you're welcome. You're welcome in advance. But it's a CD that was recorded last year with all members of the alumni of the DePaul Jazz program, all put into a big band. And we went into the studio. We recorded for a couple of days, played a couple of gigs, and we just finished a couple of gigs last month as well. I think we have a few coming up. So DePaul was a wonderful learning environment, as was Juilliard, of course. And Juilliard, when I went there for school, I was just surrounded by an immense pool of unbelievable young talent. I mean, just some of the people that I met there were absolutely, they couldn't have been born on Earth. I mean, they must have been alien in some way, or divinely inspired or something, because it's just the amount of creativity and genius emanating from some of the young musicians up there was tremendous. And so I was very, very inspired, and I kind of wrote a lot of music that was sort of inspired by them and also kind of reaching into my own past. And so I wrote this tune called Free to Drive, and this is about the feeling that one gets when one first is allowed to take the helm of an automobile after the years and years of waiting. So it's kind of this release, and it features Adam Birnbaum, who's an unbelievable pianist, Yasushi Nakamura on bass, and Jeremy Noller on the drums.
Okay, let's check it out. Again, we got Chris Madsen here. He's going to be with us until 9 o'clock. This is off his first CD.